G'day everybody, welcome. My name's Tony, welcome to the channel, and today I'm going to be teaching you about these guys. What is an ND filter? Basically an ND filter is just a sunglasses that goes straight over the front of your lens. It just darkens down the exposure. So the way to compensate for making the exposure darker, why would you want to do that? Well, the thing is, if you put an ND filter in front, what you're going to be able to do is increase the shutter speed, and you're going to be able to create different effects within your camera without having to something that's not creatable in editing software after the fact that you've taken the photo. So I normally use them for waves. Have a setting where your ISO is as low as it can go. You can't get it any slower, so that's what these are for. So if you want the wave to be a little bit more blurry, a bit more streaky, maybe you want to have the exposure for half a second, or you want an exposure for 1 second, then without the ND, sometimes you can't do that because your ISO is as low as it can go. You got everything else set, there's no other way to do it, so that's what these goes for. So this guy here, this is called a graduated filter. So obviously the top half is darker than the bottom half. The bottom half is just clear, it's exactly the same. But essentially, you don't always use these, but a lot of the times I take a lot of beach photos, a lot of seascapes, and a lot of the time the horizon's dead flat. So when you take a picture of the beach, sometimes the sky is really bright, especially if it's a sunset or a sunrise. So this allows you to darken just the top half of the image, and you still leave the bottom half as a normal exposure, so that kind of blends the two together, so it's more of an in-camera thing. You can take multiple exposures and blend them in afterwards, but I like to use these guys. So how do you fit it to the lens? So there's all different types of ND filters. Some of them are just screw-ons. So you just take the lens, you're going to screw the filter on, and they're different strengths. You generally can't use the graduated filters with the circle because you won't be able to slide it up and down if the horizon's not dead in the center. So that's why I choose to do the square filters. So I got this brand here, Nisi, and basically they've got a ring. Comes with a whole bunch of ring kits, and these rings will fit on your lens the right size to adapt this here. You just screw this guy on the front, and then this guy here, it just slips over. You pull this little, and then that's on there, that's just free floating. And now you're free to put whatever filters in there you want. You've got 3 slots in here, so you've got a 3 stop, so this will darken the exposure by 3 stops. Push that in there. Boom. Now you can take whatever your exposure was before, you can slow it down by 3 stops. So if it was half a second shutter speed to start with, then 3 stops it would be half a second goes to 1 second, 2 seconds, and 4 seconds. So you've taken a half a second exposure to 4 seconds of exposure. So that will really start to smooth things out if you want that sort of look. What I generally do as well from taking seascapes, I've got this guy as well. There's another slot in there, so push that in, and then you can slide and you can adjust it wherever you want it, wherever the horizon might sit. If there's even some rocks coming in from the side, sometimes you can slant it a little bit, so if you don't want to darken the rocks down too much, but this guy's normally just for flat horizons. Also, forgot to mention there's a circular polarizer within this filter. Circular polarizer, I'll go into it in maybe a future video, but basically it just cuts down the glare. So if you had a reflection on the water, you didn't want to see it, you wanted to see something what's underneath the water, you can spin it, you can dial it into, there's a little ring on here. This is actually spinning the filter, and it adjusts the strength of how much polarization you're going to get. Same as if you're wearing your sunglasses. If you actually look at, you're not directly at the sun, but just a little bit to the side, and you turn your head left and right, you actually visibly see it's just cutting the glare. That makes you be able to see through the water if there's some nice rocks or something underneath the surface and you want to see that in the foreground of your image. That's what this guy's for. Alright, so the pros and cons. So the pros for these guys here is obviously these will allow you to slow the shutter speed down, really get a real dreamy look on your photo that you just cannot achieve with any other thing apart from this piece of glass right here. They do come in different strengths. This one here's a 3 stop, and I have also a 6 stop, and also have a 10 stop. So I don't know if you can be able to see the different strengths. If I hold them up, maybe you might see some light coming through. Maybe if I hold in front of the lamp, you might be able to see the difference in strengths there. But the 10 stop, everyone you see on these platforms, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, a lot of people say the 10 stop's really good. I would not recommend it for a beginner because, especially if you're doing sunsets or something, it's just too dark. It sort of takes in 10 stops of making your shutter speed slower by 10 stops. So that means like, I don't even know, you have to use a calculator, there's apps and stuff for it, but half a second exposure becomes sort of like 13 minutes or something stupid like that, and over the course of 13 minutes of the sun going down, it's getting darker and darker, and then you like in two minds, like, should I stop the exposure, should I leave it going? And so I definitely don't recommend 10 stops for sunsets. Maybe I use a 6 stop if I want something really dreamy and smooth, sort of gives you like a 2 minute or 4 minute exposure, and then the 3 stops more of a when the sun is still up and it's going down and it's still very bright, you can slow the shutter speed down enough for sort of like waves and that sort of stuff to make it a bit more movement in the waves. And then once the sun's gone down, you can kind of just pop this guy out and you can shoot back to your normal. The pros, all that stuff there, it slows the shutter speed down, there's different strengths. You can achieve effects that you cannot be achieved in editing softwares. The cons are, they're pretty bloody expensive, to be honest. These guys here, I think the solid ND filters, these are probably like, I can't remember, I think I paid $180 for each one of these little squares, and they're glass, so if you drop them, you're going to be pissed. I haven't dropped any yet, luckily, but I'm pretty cautious. And then these guys here, they're even more, they're like $200 plus Australian, so I'm not sure what that is in currencies around the world, but I know it's a lot of money. I'm not sure how much the circular ones are, but I think they'll be a little bit cheaper, so if it's not in your budget to maybe go with a whole square system with the ring adapter and all that, then maybe just try the circular ones. Just, it'll say on the front of your lens what filter size thread your lens is, but I suggest if you've got a couple of lenses, just find the biggest lens you own. Say if it's the biggest lens I own, this one here, it's 82mm in thread size, so buy an 82mm filter, and then you can buy these little guys, these adapter rings. These are probably only $5 or $10, and you just make sure it's the big size is 82, and then whatever your lens you want to fit it to, your other lenses or whatever, just make sure you buy a couple of these that fit your lens. You can even just leave them on there, and then if you want to put the bigger filter on, it'll always fit, but you never want to buy something too small because then you won't be able to fit it on there properly. You'll just see the edges of them, and it just won't be good. So just a quick recap. So ND filter goes on the front of your lens. You can get square or circle types. You can get ND graduated filters for the horizons. Pros are, it lets you slow your shutter speed down to create different effects in the camera that you cannot create in editing software after the fact. Cons are, they're a little bit on the pricey side. Alright, that pretty much wraps up today's episode, and if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, you know all the lingo. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.